This year is the 50th running of the New York City Marathon. Every year before the marathon, they have a ceremony in Central Park where they paint the line, the finish line, and they talk about how they're looking forward to what's going to happen. At the end of that press conference, they have another little press conference on security measures that are going to be taken during the marathon. At this year's security briefing, I got an idea for another story, and that made me think that today we should talk about the origin of pitching stories as a reporter. The good ideas for stories usually come from interactions you're having while you're out reporting. Yesterday, while attending the security briefing and listening to some comments by Police Commissioner Shea and John Miller, the anti-terrorism chief, I noticed behind them, standing on the podium behind them, there were 2 or 3, NYPD brass who seemed to be very interested about something. Something was wrong. They weren't talking about something, and these 3 guys were noticing that they weren't talking about it, so they were gonna, before this wrapped up, they needed to make sure something got out there. And then one of them leans into John Miller and just says, "Drones." Like, I could read his lips and I could actually hear a bit of what he said. He said, "Drones." John Miller turns around and he goes on for a minute or two asking the public to not fly drones pretty much in New York City on the day of the marathon.
An issue that we have recurring every year that we have this event is drones.
I've heard people mention that, drones are illegal in New York City before. That's nothing new. But I've never been at a security briefing where, they wanted to make sure they touched on this point. And, so many people were concerned about it. The reason it got my attention was because I've been watching things that don't make sense when it comes to drones in New York City. One of which was this summer when that guy flew the drone back and forth. He stood on a drone and he flew it back and forth in Times Square for quite a bit of time. He didn't get arrested, he got away with it. If you've been to Times Square, there are literally hundreds of cops all over the place. I was just thinking of that while he was talking about the drone. So after they finished their security briefing, I went up and asked him, I said, "Mr. Miller, does the NYPD have the ability to take down a drone?" And he said, "No. Not only do we not have the ability, we don't have the authority. We're not allowed to interdict." And I was shocked. He told me that there are 2 federal agencies that are authorized to do that. The NYPD does not have the equipment and is not authorized to interdict in any way when someone's using a drone. And then he went on to say about how he has presented this problem to Congress. And they're just not hearing it. They just don't care. He said there's like one group that's assigned here to do that, and they're from out of state, and they're responsible for covering other areas. He said, "What do you think on 4th of July? Do you think that team is going to be here, or do you think that team is going to be on the mall in Washington, D.C.? So I was shocked. And whenever I'm shocked, I know that that's a pitch. That's a story. If it shocks me, a hard-boiled New York City, thick-skinned reporter, then I know it's probably a story and I should look into it.